Hey guys, welcome back. We are working on Tony's, I'm still fighting a sinus infection by the way, but we're working on Tony's 1929 GP, working on getting the governor and fan shaft set up. These are a little bit different than the John Deere A, B, G series, so let's dive on in. The way to adjust the governor shaft side to side is there's a nut on this side of the governor gear, and then behind the Magneto drive flange you have to pull the centerpiece out here. This is how you adjust your timing. So you loosen these 3 bolts and you can turn this drive disc inside this collar. So remove these 2 things, and then there's a nut behind this. And then the way you adjust this is in order to move it, let's say you want to move it towards the drive gear. So we would loosen the Magneto drive end nut and tighten this nut. And that would pull the shaft this way. If we needed to move it this way, we would loosen this and tighten this side. So that's how we adjust the shaft side to side. Now the only way to adjust the fan shaft in and out is to add or remove shims here. Now I had a thin gasket that I made here and a thick gasket that we made, and I tried using the thin one, but the issue was the gear was too far into, the gear on the fan shaft was too far into the governor gear. And when you're setting these things up, the heel, which is the beveled portion of the backside of the gear here and the beveled portion of the backside of the gear here, the heels should be matched up evenly. So if you look here, I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Let me grab my flashlight. If you look in there, you can see that the heels are pretty much perfectly lined up. And the amount of backlash that you want to have should be just enough to make that little tick. Just back and forth movement, not too tight, not too loose. So in order to adjust the backlash, we would either move the shaft this way or this way. So we'd have to tighten these nuts on the ends of the shafts, loosen one side, tighten it, and that would draw it either out or in, and that's how we would adjust the backlash and the contact pattern. So this one is rotating freely. I did have an issue with, there's a cotter pin that goes through the castle nut on the back side of the fan shaft. I did have an issue with clearance on that when you look at this hub here, or this carrier. So you have to, what I had to do is take a punch and just knock the head of the cotter pin back a little bit so that it clears. But when you rotate everything, make sure it goes around evenly, that you don't have any contact between the cotter pin and this carrier here. But it should rotate very nicely. And we've got really good backlash, and the heels are matched up just perfectly. I'm feeling with my finger and they're matched up just perfectly. So now we have to pull this all back apart so that we can get it on the tractor. And the way that I've got it set up here on the bench, you see I've got some blocking. I've got the upper water pipe, because the fan shaft runs through the upper water pipe. There's a bearing in here. So I've got everything kind of lined up perfectly, blocked up the way it needs to be in order for everything to rotate as it should. So let's go ahead and pull this apart. It's just a matter of pulling these 3 bolts out for the carrier, and then this carrier has to come off, and there's a bearing here that slides on the shaft that has to come off because the shaft has to go underneath the manifold and come through here. So we need to slide the shaft into the governor, and then we can start putting the water pipe and manifold or water manifold on the front, put the bearing on the front, and button that side up. And then I think we can put the radiator in so we can get that off the floor. Let's get that done. Okay, fan shaft first. We'll just slide that into place like that. Then the governor. I'm not putting any sealant on the gasket yet, just in case, you know, something happens and we have to take it back off, but okay. Two of the shorter bolts go here for clearance. And there's two medium length bolts. One goes here. One goes here. And then the rest of them go on this outside edge. Don't want to lose the gasket here. Oh, we gotta move this back a little bit. I gotta rotate the flange, and this is why I didn't put sealant on right away. Okay, take all the bolts back out. Sometimes that's the way it goes, folks. This flange for the fan shaft has a flat spot machined on the bottom so that it doesn't interfere with the top of the main case. So, okay, back in action. Oh, that's the wrong one. Two shorter ones. Two medium. And then the rest on the outside. Okay, now get the gasket, or the shim rather, the thick shim in place. Grab the bolts that we need. coming around the other side here. There we go. All right, we'll get all these ones tightened down, and then we'll move on to the water pipe, manifold, and the front bearing. I got to make gaskets for the front of this yet. And then we have to put the fan blade and fan clutch on. And then we can put the radiator in, I think. So let's keep moving. Okay, we got the water manifold on. I'm going to slide the bearing onto the front of the fan shaft here. Just like that. Put the carrier in place. Just kind of lightly tap it into place. Still get that, you can hear that slight ticking. A little bit of backlash in there. Just enough. Get a wrench to tighten those down. Okay. Perfect. Perfect-ish. All right, now I got to look at the fan and the fan clutch and see how all that goes together. I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure there's a gland nut that goes in here first. Right here. Got to clean it up still. But I'm pretty sure that goes inside first, and then from there there'll be some different components, clutch disc, spring, a couple other things. So we'll get that figured out and put that back together. Okay, I'm gonna put the fan drive clutch on. First, there's a key that goes in the shaft here. It's about 2.5 inches long. And then we put the spring on. I might have this wrong, actually. Let me see here. I didn't take this apart, so I think we got to put this on first. See if I can get the key out of here now. Like so. This goes on. The key goes in. And then the first drive disc. What we got going on here? Let me take a look at this. We've got a little bit of a raised edge on the edge of the keyway here. I'll grab a file and clean that up. And while we're at it, we might as well grab some emery cloth. And shine up the shaft. Just a little bit. Take the edge off. Okay. Let's polish this real quick. This way we don't have the same issue that we had with the bearings on the transmission spline shaft. Okay, let's try this again. Oops. First that, then the spring, and the key. Then that first drive hub. Now, let's double check rotation. I'm pretty sure the backside of the fan blades are what is painted yellow. Yep. A little bit of yellow paint left on the back here. So, clutch disc. We have a clutch disc on the front. Then we have the front drive disc. Now it says the spring on this should be compressed to 1 inch length so that it gives the proper slip for the clutch. So see if we can get this. I have to get a tape measure first, but see if we can get that figured out. I'm not sure how to compress this. I suppose I could maybe maybe we can just turn the nut here on the end. See if that does it. 3/4 maybe? Nope. 7/8. Let's get a tape measure so we're ready with that. So right now we are sitting at about 1 inch and 3/8. So we got to compress it 3/8 of an inch. Whoop. See if we can move you up here. Doesn't take much to draw it in. Inch and a quarter. Just a little more than 1.125 inches. a little less than 1.125 inches. Just a tad more, but I also have to line up the keyway here. That should be good. Yeah, that's right about 1 inch. Okay, should be good to go on that. What else do we need? Got to get the crankcase cover on, got to make a gasket for that. I think we can put the radiator on. Hey guys, welcome back. Well, we got a little progress done. I didn't show it on camera because, quite frankly, I just needed to get work done. And I know that bothers some people, but everything that we accomplished after putting the governor and fan shaft and fan on is pretty much bolt and go. So I'll just go through what we did, with the exception of the Magneto, but that's fairly easy. So first off, we got the radiator on. That's done. Just 2 bolts or 2 nuts up front on the studs, and then the hose here. Now I double clamped both ends of the hose. Got the air cleaner installed and the breather pipe that goes to the side of the governor. Got the carburetor installed. One tip, don't tighten the air cleaner, which is held on only by these 2 bolts here. Leave these 2 bolts loose so that when you bolt the carburetor up, everything can be manipulated and loose. So we got the carburetor on, got the breather pipe on, installed the linkage from the governor to the carburetor, and then it goes across to the linkage that goes back to the throttle lever. There's a small bracket here, pinch bolt for this lever that attaches to the crossover lever, and that then comes over here with another bracket that attaches to the Magneto bracket. This linkage runs through a tube and comes back to the throttle lever here. He does have a spark advance lever, but it's broken, so we left that rod out for now because the rod is broken too. So we have to make a new rod for that, and regardless, we don't have a Magneto that uses the spark advance lever. We've got a Wyco on here, so that's irrelevant. So we've got all the linkage for the throttle hooked up, got the wires in place for the spark plugs. What else did we get done? Fuel tank mounts are in place. I did have to pull the clutch back apart because there was a bolt right here, and I have to take this shield back off too. We have an issue with it hitting the collar that goes inside here, so I have to figure that issue out. But this bracket that holds the front of this tube, you can't get this bolt out with the shield in place, so you have to put the bracket for the throttle linkage and spark advance linkage in place before you put the shield on and everything else. Otherwise, you'll have to take it all back apart. So, learn that the hard way. What else did we do? Made a gasket for the crankcase cover. New bolts because the old ones we could not find, so new bolts will suffice. I think that's really about it. So in order to time the magneto really quick, what I do on these is you've got left-hand exhaust open and you've got left-hand impulse. There's a dash mark on the side of the flywheel here, and then on the side of the cover here, there's a dash mark. So what you want to do, get that snap, the magneto snapped just as these two marks are lined up. So what I do is I line these up, then I come over here, loosen the 3 cap screws. There's one here, and one on the other side. And then I rotate the magneto by hand until it clicks, or till the impulse trips, and I hold it there and tighten everything down. Rotate it through, watch that timing mark on the flywheel on that side as you rotate it, and as you bring that around, you should hear a click just as that dash mark on the flywheel passes the dash mark on the crankcase. So that's how you time the magneto on these. Real simple. You don't have to time the governor to the engine because it's basically, it's like a plate that you just rotate in there until, you know, basically until your magneto trips at the right time. So then you tighten everything down. Got the toolbox put back on. This bolt in here, you guys probably can't see it, but that one right there at the end of my finger is a real pain. So it's held on by this bolt, and then there's one here. Had to pull the clutch back apart like I said. But all we really got left for this is put the clutch back together, figure out the issue with this backing plate. Once we get that done, we can adjust the end play on the crankshaft. And basically what you have to do there is just drive the flywheel further on. Install the clutch fork, make a gasket for that. Put the fuel tank on, the fuel lines, and I think that's it. Put some fuel in it and see what we got. So I think Sunday we are going to do that. Unfortunately, I will not be making it to Andover, South Dakota this year. It's just not in the cards. Tomorrow we are going to go to Anderson's Rock Creek up near Rush City, Minnesota. So it's a smaller family show, but it should be a good one. I'm told it's a pretty good show, so we're going to check that out. I've never been there, and we'll see what it has to offer. But we're getting really close on the GP, getting really close. So hopefully Sunday we'll have some life out of it. But sorry I did some wrenching off camera, but you know, with the sinus infection and with me, I want to get this thing done and driving, running and driving, because I need to get the 28D in here before winter so I can start tearing that apart, grabbing whatever parts I need off of that for the 27, and then selling what we don't need, so we can put that money towards the 27D. So that's the plan, but we're getting close. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for wrenching with me, and we'll see you guys at Rock Creek tomorrow.